let's talk about review some comics that we may have.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with what you brought, or do you want me to?
We can start with you.
The other book here I have is a book that all I had to do was hand it to you, and you bought it almost immediately. Just from looking at the cover, even just Darth Vader and Son, and just the idea of, like, just the idea.
What it would have been like.
What would have been like if Darth Vader would have been a father figure? And not only just taking the idea of father-son things, but even taking lines from the movie like, "This isn't the toy you're looking for." I mean, things like that. That's just... And it's not very thick at all, but it's just so wonderfully beautiful that you can't not... Especially if you're a Star Wars fan, or even just a fan in general, it's just... This would be a perfect Saturday morning kind of thing that I could just wake up and read all the time. I just wish there was more of it. And I want to find Jeffrey Brown and just either high-five him or just...
Let's see here. You were the one who read this most recently, so we can both talk about that if you're so inclined. I just want to hear your thoughts on it first. We're talking about Beasts of Burden.
Beasts of Burden, yeah.
By Evan Dorkin and Jill Thompson.
I really enjoyed this. Not just because it's something unique in the sense that it's animals and it's not just they're talking and they're communicating with each other, but they're going on this adventure and there's
maybe we should explain the premise a little bit more.
Yeah.
The premise of Beast of Burden, well, I'm not going to get too involved in it, but it basically is, I think the first time I explained to you was Homeward Bound with Zombies.
Yeah.
And it is an animal story, and it's pet detectives going after the supernatural, and that's really as much about it as I want to tell people, because I really want people to discover it more for themselves.
It's so wonderfully written and just clever, and it really gets you. It really gets to you. I don't want to say like emotion, like I will admit I got emotional a little bit in certain parts. But
if you've had a pet, if you've had a pet, definitely with the first story, you get a little bit emotional.
If you've had a pet too, this is something that just rings really true. And as a pet lover, I can't help but absolutely love this. But I think what absolutely sold me was just the artwork, because as you were saying, the art is all watercolor. It's all it's all watercolor art, and it's all takes meticulous amounts of time and just effort, and it's something that you can really tell was put a lot of time and effort into. And when something like that happens, you really know that this is good. And as much as I do love a really good story, if the art is just astounding and brilliant and draws you in, art can sell you on a comic almost as much as writing can. And
well, it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
And I can, if nothing else, I can at least appreciate half of half of a creative team if the artist is that good.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm not reading a crappy story.
Yeah.
But
what's nice is that you can really tell that these two put a whole hell of a lot of effort into it, and it's wonderful. But I'm kind of mad because I want to read more now.
I know, and like I mentioned to you, there's stuff in Dark Horse Presents.
Yeah.
I think its biggest strength and the artwork definitely is one of the big strengths. It's the writing too, but what I think really, because people look at it sometimes and it's like, oh, talking animals, this looks like a kid's story. But the thing about it is in many ways told like it has a very storybook feel to it, and the artwork has a very storybook feel to it, and you get that kind of storybook feeling.
But that doesn't mean that it can't be deep.
No, and actually, what it is, and I've seen it before. I've heard reviews of like, maybe your kids will like it. I'm like, well, maybe your older kids for some of these stories, because what it is the narration is very storybook feel, but it's very sobering, and it's all. It all approaches mortality and loss and things like it really tackles some heavy stuff.
It feels more like The Fox and the Hound rather than kind of a Pound Puppies.
Right. No, it's very Fox and the Hound. Only,
And
but with more zombies.
And I bring that up because Fox and the Hound, although a Disney movie, is quite dark and somber and very, you wouldn't expect that kind of thing. But then
Sure.
again, back in the '60s, you get away with that with Disney. So, but it's definitely an amazing story, and I had the same feeling after I read all of the Runaways that this is awesome. Wait, what do you mean there isn't more? What? No, damn you.
Well, there's more, but and this is one of the problems with something like this. It takes forever to make. They released 4. They did a bunch of short stories that appeared in Dark Horse Presents and the book, in just random ass places. And then they did They did 4 issues, and then I think Jill Thompson realized I can't do an ongoing comic book if I'm watercoloring every panel, which made sense. But of course also. One of the greatest crossovers ever.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
They did at least get one more one-shot comic, which was the Hellboy Beast of Burden crossover. Which again is one of those things where you look at it like Hellboy with a bunch of animals, but it
works.
It works perfectly, and it actually, weirdly enough, for one of these things, it actually, despite being a little crossover like that, which seems like it would have just been a fun little thing, and it was in many ways, but it actually did give something to this universe, and it actually tied up a loose plot strand, and explained a lot, and that actually gave more depth to these characters. Pugsley in particular, who was always a fun character, but didn't quite have his issue. Like, he didn't have a story, and that really was kind of his story to give him that extra depth.
And and that's kind of one of the things I appreciated with Avengers Academy doing that Runaways crossover, is it did do the same kind of sense of tying up a lot of the loose ends and everything, because when you do love a series and love the characters, you don't want to feel like things are left completely in the open.
Now that'll actually lead me into something else. I finally got around to reading this week. I picked this up at Comic-Con.
Heard of that, haven't
ever. It's good. It's not great, which is too bad. It really is. I don't recommend that people not read it. It's translated from Belgium, I think, or Italian. I don't know. And that actually shows them some of the translations are a little bit spotty. Some of it doesn't translate.
Well, have you ever read Dylan Dog in English?
No, and
it's still brilliant.
Well, no.
But you can kind of tell that it's
when things get
rough.
Translated sometimes.
It's like reading an Aha song.
Yeah. It's really good. I love the artwork, and I really like. I don't love the characters. I like them. The thing about it is when you look at the length here, there just isn't enough. I just wanted more. I wanted it to be longer. I wanted to see more of these characters. I want these relationships with these characters to be fleshed out more. I want their backstory. I mean, it's cool that the main character's a little bit enigmatic, but like, we're being really enigmatic here. I mean, I kind of put the pieces together, but there's some things I actually wish had been spelled out, not because I lack imagination, but because I think it really would have helped flesh out these characters more. And as much as this is a complaint, it's also a praise for what is here. Because I'd rather be saying I want more rather than I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Because that's really the way I felt about this. I'm like there's so much here. It also brings up so many. It's set in, well, if you can't tell from the title, Africa. This book is set in Africa.
Yeah.
But specifically from the way you can kind of tell it's Southern Africa with a sort of South African setting. And it's set on a wildlife reserve where it's not. I think he might be I'm not sure if he's an Afrikaner or an expat. That's another one of those things where I'm like, I wish fleshed out a little bit better.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with poachers in addition to also international criminals, and you got coups and you got political intrigue, but none of it is developed to the point where I mean, you care about it, but you want to know more, and I'd rather be saying I want more of this rather than.
I had that same feeling, and as much as I love Brian K. Vaughan, I had that same feeling when I read Pride of Baghdad. I don't know if you've ever.
I haven't gotten around to that one.
It has that same sort of feeling where it's beautifully. I mean, Brian K. Vaughan is a fantastic writer, and it's brilliant and it's poignant. And if you follow the Iraqi War at all, what whatsoever. And if you, even if you know the story, there's a lot to take away from it. But I feel that because it was written as a graphic novel, and it has an ending, and it has an ending.
And I know how it ends, but
At the same time, however, I feel like a lot of the meat could have been added in. Like, I wanted to see more, because as much as I cared about these characters, I didn't feel as broken up as I thought I would be when the eventuality of the story happened, if you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you mean.
Because I wanted there to be more, because as much as you care about the characters, sometimes a length can hinder that. If you have a certain length, you can only do so
Right.
much.